That movie is a shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. It's all a theater of the mind. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good Sunday afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am. It is Sunday, October the 17th, 2021, 2:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I just wanted to jump on this afternoon because I had a bit of time. There's the cue, there's the cue. And give you, talk some more Halloween Kills. It's Halloween Kills weekend. Opening weekend, it is projected. Right now, they're saying $50 million opening weekend. That's a little bit more than I thought. I had estimated around, well, between 25 and 35. And I said anything over 40 would be a huge win for them. And it's over 40. So I am absolutely certain that Universal and Blumhouse and Jamie Lee Curtis and everybody is pleased with a $50 million opening weekend. Now, having said that, what's the drop going to be next weekend, right? What's the drop going to be next weekend? Remember, as I always say, especially opening weekend. Just because a movie makes a lot of money doesn't mean that it was a good movie. It means a lot of people went to see it. The question is, how many of those people that went to see it liked it? Because you can't go back to the box office and get your money back if you didn't like the movie, nor should you be able to. I mean, this isn't, it's not that kind of a service, right? So whenever, because by and large film is subjective and it's difficult to measure, we tend to look at the box office and incorrectly associate box office with quality. Now, you can do that sometimes when a movie makes a lot of money. It does mean it's really good, right? Absolutely. But usually that's sort of consistent over time. You tend to look at a trend over the weeks, and if it kind of is, not really falling off that much or whatever. Opening weekend's really difficult because you don't know if you like the movie until you go see it. And most of the money a movie makes is in its opening weekend. So, I mean, it's like it made $50 million, not because Halloween Kills is a great movie, but because there was a lot of people that wanted to see it, right? It's like that with most films. But nonetheless, this is show business, and the studios are very happy with their $50 million opening weekend. But I really want to know what is it going to make next weekend. Now, it should, you would think, be not bad, pretty good over the next couple of weeks because, of course, it's Halloween. And but we'll see. So I have seen this movie 3 times now. And I just wanted to jump on and, talk to you guys as well. I'm going to open up the floor to you guys. But I wanted to kind of give my thoughts on my third watch. I watched it, the first time I watched it in a movie theater at an advanced screening in Toronto on the 13th, on Wednesday. And then I got myself a little VPN and was able to watch it on Peacock because we don't get Peacock here in Canada. So that's what I did. And by the way, that's why I had to restart the stream because I accidentally had my VPN on and the quality was just absolute ass. So that's what I did. I know, it's like, Peacock's probably watching this right now going, "You son of a bitch." Shut up, Peacock. Anyway, so, Cockpea. But I've watched it twice. The second time I watched it, you guys know this. The first time I watched it, my expectations were out the window. I enjoyed the experience of watching Kills the first time more than I did H18, right? I have these videos on my channel where I talk all about this. You can check them out. I don't want to dive deep into that again. My second watch, I didn't like it as much. The flaws that I knew that were there were more apparent to me on the second watch because I was watching it the second time with the intention on doing my spoiler review. So I was watching it through a bit of a different lens, right? The first time I'm just like, whatever, show me, bring it to me. And I did notice that stuff. I kind of put it in the back. The second time, it's almost like I'm studying it now, right? I'm doing homework now. And the third time is maybe kind of like somewhere in the middle. So I have a few more likes and dislikes I'm going to try and not repeat myself. Famous last words of Dave McRae. Because I do have several in-depth videos on my channel before this one where I do that. I talk about my likes and my dislikes. So let's start with some more of my likes. As you guys know, I adored the Flashback. I thought the Flashback, in terms of its attention to detail and its production design, and I mean, again, like, hats off. Like, it's fucking amazing. It really does look like I am immersed in that world again. Well, I guess I should have said start with a dislike, because this is a dislike that I praised the Flashback, its set deck, its attention to detail, having, you know, the drain pipe there in the window, because that could be something that's, you know, I could see somebody overlooking that. Now, I mean, you know, if you're a hardcore Halloween fan, especially a huge fan of the original, you know, you wouldn't overlook that. But when I saw it at the screening, I was like, you got it. Okay, I'm impressed, right? One of the things I didn't like, and again, this is purism talking, is I didn't like seeing Aaron Armstrong's eyes. Now, you didn't see his eyes. Like, we're not talking Halloween H2O, you know, shit, right? It's more sort of the bottom of his lids, like down here, right? That when young Hawkins, shines his flashlight onto his partner there, and Michael's got him kind of in a stranglehold, you know, you did see a bit of the bottom of the lids and stuff. And again, this is nitpicking stuff. I understand this. It is not lost on me that to the average person out there, this is nitpicky stuff. I get it. I understand it. But it's stuff that I'm not pulling out of my ass. If you've been watching me for any length of time, this is stuff you know that is important to me, right? So it's a creative choice. It's a choice that while I was shooting that scene, I would have been very conscious of, right? To not even show down here, to show no skin, right? Print that on a t-shirt. Michael Myers, no skin. That could mean a whole bunch of shit. But that's, I noticed it immediately. Didn't take me out of the movie. I wasn't there going, oh, fuck, okay, this sucks now. No, not at all. I just was like, oh, okay, all right. You know what I mean? So that's a dislike that I didn't mention in my other dislike video. Wasn't crazy on it. Maybe I'll try and go back and forth to kind of, you know, even it out. So yeah, so I wouldn't have done that. Let's talk about a like. You know, I really liked, I liked when Michael Myers came out of the burning house and the firefighters are like, da, 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 da. What the fuck is going on here? You know what I mean? It was fun. I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed that on every watch. I enjoyed it on the first watch, obviously, because of the mindset I was in. I enjoyed it on the second watch because it's just like, yeah, this is fun. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed it on the third watch. It's just fun. You know, it's that, like, it's just that moment. It's shot really well. Like, in terms of it just looking cool, right? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter whatever you are. You're a purist, you're not, you're a fan of the later sequels, you're not, whatever. It's just looking at it at its primal sort of fundamental kind of raw form. It's just cool. It's just cool. That's it. You know, so I smile when it's like, what the fuck is this guy? And he like comes out, you know, it's like watching a wrestler come out from the back or something. You know what I mean? It's always kind of cool to see like a legacy wrestler like Goldberg come out or something, you know, no matter how old he fucking is, it's always like, that's kind of cool. That's Goldberg. You know, it's that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I did like that. It was fun. And you know, the firefighter kills were, yeah, like, you know, you know, and stuff. I mean, that whole scene was shot really well. And they actually burned that fucking house down. I watched Sean Clark's video. And if you haven't seen Sean Clark's video, go over to Malfunction, I think is the name of his channel. And Sean is S-E-A-N. I think that's it. I don't, yeah. Head over to his channel anyway. I'm sure you know his channel. You probably follow him. And check out his latest video that he shot a little while ago, but he didn't post it till yesterday. Halloween Kills filming locations. Really, really cool. And Sean is arguably the, you know, best at it, the gold standard, you know, one of the OGs of doing filming locations. There's tons of people that do it now, but Sean Clark and his horror hollowed ground, I believe that's it, is one of the OGs, and he's great. So I learned in that video that they actually the house was going to be torn down anyway, so they sold it to the studio, I guess, to the production, and they were able to actually burn it down. It's no longer there. Like, that house is no longer there. It was there prior to shooting Halloween Kills, because there's a few people online that have actually gone to the house and gone in. It was abandoned. And but it's not there anymore. It's just a foundation now. So that's kind of cool. Little bit of trivia for you if you haven't seen that video. So I did like the whole firefighter thing. It's fun. You know what I mean? You just have a blast in the kills and things like that, and the way he comes out of the gun thing in the wall or whatever, and the guy's like, "There's somebody here," you know, and he's just like, "Take the thing," you know, it's fun stuff. So that's fun. That's fun. Another thing that, and I did like that even in my first, you know, as I said, watch, but I for whatever reason, I forgot to mention it in my likes and dislikes video from the other day. So I'm mentioning it here. Because sometimes it takes a bit to, you know, there's a lot of shit, right? You know, there's a lot of shit you got to talk about and, you know, remember. Okay, so a dislike. Again, this is sort of a branch off of the overall arcing thing that I had talked about. I still can't get past, and I think what it is, and this is, of course, it's my opinion, but I understand camp. I understand that 80s cheese. I understand that there's, you know, I get it. I mean, listen, I've seen all the Friday the 13th. I've seen all the Elm Streets. I've seen all the I actually haven't seen all the sleepaway camps, but, you know, I've seen a lot of 80s slasher cheese. I know what an 80s campy slasher horror movie is. But generally speaking, in those 80s slasher campy horror movies, you don't have a serious, you know, social commentary or some sort of serious dramatic angle to your film, because the tone is going to be wonky. 1 minute it's this, next minute it's that, and it feels strange. And that, for me, is sort of what Halloween Kills feels like, and still feels like, especially that middle part with all that hospital shit. And I know there's some people that's like, it's just campy stuff. It's just, well, okay, if that's the intention. But then you're putting this campy stuff within this serious, dramatic social commentary. It just is like, look, pick one. You know, make it a farce and make it a spoof, or go all in and make it serious shit. Because I can't, it feels weird, and it still feels weird. There's a lot of overselling. There's a lot of performances, and these are good actors. I mean, I don't, it's in the writing, really, or in the terms of the direction of how to, you know, the dialogue. I mean, there's a scene. Anyway, the thing I wanted to focus on, which was this one line from, and there's others I could focus on, but this is just an example. When Judy Greer's Karen says, and I'm paraphrasing, damn it, I wish I could remember exactly, but she comes in and Laurie's like, you know, I'm okay or whatever. And she says, "You're not okay. You had a fucking knife in you." And it's like, why did you say it like that? Like, why is it like, "You're not okay, Ma. You had a fucking knife in you"? You know, like, why wasn't it said something like, "Mom, you're not okay, okay? You just had a fucking knife in you, for Christ's sakes." Like, why wasn't it said with more conviction? You know, but more own it, you know, like go all in the performance, go. And I found a lot of the performances were like that. I just didn't believe them. That's all, you know, and I've talked about that in the previous video, but that's an example, right? Where it's kind of like, why is it? And I know maybe it's part of her character. I mean, she was kind of that whiny kind of thing. But then I expected Karen to be a little less of that in this film because of the arc she had in the first film, right? Where gotcha. You know, it's kind of like, Karen's coming around, you know, and she's, because of what she's been through, you know, and yet she kind of had a bit of a, anyway. And funny enough, I actually liked Karen in this movie more than I did the first movie, but that's just an example. There was a lot of that, right? And the evil dies tonight and stuff and all that. And, you know, evil dies tonight. It's like, holy shit, bring it down a notch. But okay. It didn't feel earned, you know? And why are all these people talking about this 40-year, and these, you know, doctors and nurses and security guards lose all sense of control and they're running through their own hospitals. It's like, what this feels, Jesus. I just didn't believe it, right? I talked about it in the previous video. I just got to mention it here. That, for me, all of that still stands out to me, you know? And, you know, there's something in psychology. I forget what it's called. but there's something in psychology. I'd have to look it up. So forgive me, I do forget what it's called, but this is a real thing. There is a term for this, where when you don't like something, but you find yourself liking it on subsequent watches or viewings, it doesn't necessarily mean that you actually do like it more. There is something that happens with the brain, and there's a psychological thing there, and I forget what it's called. So it doesn't surprise me when people say, oh, I didn't like it, but I kind of liked it on subsequent watch. You know, it's like there is actually something happening, which isn't necessarily true to you actually going, actually, you know what? This is actually really good. There's something there, and I forget what it's called. I wish I could remember it, because that happens a lot with people. You know, you're getting used to it essentially, and you're just kind of, you know, there's a real kind of term for it, and there's a science behind it. But anyway, so that stuff is still funny, and there's a large portion. Staying on the dislikes here. There's a large portion I noticed in the middle. Maybe I mentioned this in the previous video. I was talking about it with Bruce yesterday because he was over here. We were working on that film pitch that I hope to have more info for you soon. But we were sort of talking about kills, and we were laughing, and he was like, yeah. You know, he felt the same way. But there's a large portion kind of where there's just no killing. You know, it almost feels like there's I forget, I'll have to time it, but it's like there's a lot of those, like, I think it's after the killing of the couple with the drone, which is cool, and I'll get to that. But then it's like there's this lull, you know, and then we get into this really dramatic sort of cheesy part, and it's just all, and then all of a sudden we're at the house at, you know, the Myers house or something, or maybe it's the Lindsay stuff. Anyway, it's just a pacing issue. It is. It's a pacing issue. It just, you know, and it could just be a matter of, as I said, simply just rearranging the order of a few things. That's entirely possible. I don't know. I haven't deconstructed the film to that length, but it could just be an editing thing, you know, but there definitely is a pacing issue. And, you know, there is. That doesn't mean that on subsequent watches you may not forgive it and just love it and take it as it is, right? But certainly yeah, that the hospital stuff is still the same. It's still the same for me. It's just, you know, it's the best is when Tommy walks out of the hospital with his fist in the air, you know, evil dies tonight. It's like, holy shit, take it down. What the fuck is, as I said in a tweet the other day, it feels like the overselling of a lot of the dialogue, not just evil dies tonight and 40 years ago, which was mentioned like, you know, 80,000 times. A lot of the dialogue felt like the actors were very self-aware that they're in a Halloween movie. You know, it almost felt like like I was watching a theater play, you know, but anyway, and it's not all bad. Like there's some good moments at the hospital too. I think Hawkins actually, let's get to a like now. Hawkins actually, I think, you know, Will Patton is great. And he was believable. And the thing is that, you know, as an actor, I can tell you this, if you're an actor, you know this, you know, in a lot of cases, acting is reacting. And if you are, you know, if you're a good actor, right, and you have somebody who is just as good of an actor as you to play off of, then that's just going to elevate both of your performances, right? And they become more believable. So that exchange between Jamie Lee Curtis and Hawkins when they're lying in the bed and she thinks he's unconscious and then he says something and she's like, fuck you, you know? And it's a great moment. It's one of my favorite moments in the hospital. It's nuanced. It's believable. I believe the performances. There's nothing overselling there. You know, it feels real. And Will Patton is a great character actor. And even when he's being a little like, evil dies tonight, I believe him. For whatever it is, it's the way it's his performance. It's the way he brings that gravitas and that it's him. It's Will Patton when he plays those types of roles. And I believe him, you know, even when he's being a little, like I said, a little sort of saying that dialogue, for whatever reason, I have no issues when he says it. I totally buy it. And I buy that he's like, you know, when he says like, well, it's about damn time, you know, and it's, I believe it. I really appreciate that exchange. I have no issues with that. So that I really liked. That I did. I really liked that. He was probably one of my favorite characters, to be honest with you, in the film. And from a certain point of view, it's his movie. Now, I know, there's a lot of people out there that are saying it's Michael Myers' film. And yeah, to a degree, but I don't think Myers is in this movie. Like, I don't feel like it's a Myers movie more than any other Myers movie. In my opinion, I don't feel like I understand there's this narrative about taking evil down. And so there's, in the writing, it makes it feel like they're focusing on, but I don't feel that. I don't feel that this is more of a Myers movie than any of the other films. Now, certainly the Halloween 18 film is very Laurie centric. That is true. And you can feel that for sure. But I think you know what I'm trying to say. And it's not Hawkins' film, but Hawkins plays a huge role because of how they've connected that flashback and the guilt that he feels and, the shit that he's been carrying for 40 years. And I mean, that's probably the most depth in that fucking movie with any character at all. Really, there's weight there, and it makes you appreciate sort of his character from 18 more and makes me appreciate him in this movie more. And that's why I'm like, God, I wish he was the sheriff. I wish we could see more of Hawkins. I really do. I wish we could have seen more of Hawkins. Yeah, I just think he would have elevated the film overall and whatnot. But anyway, so I really appreciate that. Let's go to another like. I know I was going to go to a dislike. Let's go to another like. Maybe I mentioned this, but Lindsay, I think Kyle Richards was great. And I think it's because she had her moment with Michael, right? She had a moment with Michael. Tommy didn't have a moment. Well, Tommy had a moment with Michael at the end when they're kind of like looking at each other and he's about to die and there's that's a moment, sure. But in terms of like a chase scene, and as I said, in the movie, it's probably the best example of any sort of tension, right? There's other moments of tension, like, and there's moments of tension in the 18 film too. But when you combine the visual aesthetic and the lighting and whatnot, in Halloween Kills with that tension, I naturally appreciate it more, right? I like it more rather than, the other thing. So, yeah, I thought Kyle Richards was great. And I like that she had her moment with Michael. I wish, and again, I know Marion did too, and she was good, but it was so fast. It was so quick. It was so dismissive. I mean, anyways, I'll get to that. So I like that. I think my three favorite characters in the movie, to be honest with you, are Lindsay, Lonnie, funny enough, and Hawkins. I think are my three favorite characters, with honorable mentions on third watch becoming Tommy and Allison. Well, sorry, and in that Lonnie, Lindsay, Hawkins, and Karen. Funny enough, I actually, as whiny as she still kind of was, and although I didn't believe her performance in in some of the situations, I appreciated that they were giving her more to do, and kind of making her part of the thing. But largely like the legacy characters, Brackett, Tommy by and large, and Marion especially, it just wasn't there. Anyway, so that's a like. Lindsay is a like. Let's go to a dislike. So shout out to Cody Leach for bringing this to my attention, because in my dislikes video, I had taught, and in my spoiler review, I had talked about how I on first two watches didn't know whether or not I was under the impression, and there's a reason why, and I figured out what it was. Thank you, Cody. I was under the impression, I didn't know how long it had been since these people had seen Laurie. And I was under the impression that, maybe it's not 40 years, but it's been a long time. I was under that like years. But somebody, a viewer of mine, I forget your screen name, my apologies, but you know who you are, had brought it to my attention that, actually, Dave, the bartender makes it very clear that they come to the bar once every year to celebrate this kind of moment, and they actually do know Laurie. And I was like, really? So on third watch, I'm like, oh yeah, he is saying that. And then I'm like, why didn't I get that impression? How did that go over my head? How the hell did I miss that, right? Well, I think I know what it is. And Cody brought it to my attention, and he's a very good point. When Tommy is saying his speech, right? He's on the stage and he's saying his speech. Towards the very end, he holds up his glass and he says, "To Lori, wherever you are." And I was like, that's it. He said, "To Lori, wherever you are." Now, from a writing standpoint, I understand why they chose to use those words as opposed to, what Cody suggested, which would have been more clear that maybe they actually are more in relative contact than we might think, which is maybe you could have said, "To Lori, it's too bad you couldn't be here tonight." You know what I mean? But to say "To Lori, wherever you are," that communicate, and it may not communicate that to you, but to me, my experience with that was my mind automatically said, "Oh yes, of course," because they don't know where she is. They have no idea where she is. They haven't spoken to her in a long time. I mean, this scene could have been happening in a bar 3 states over, and they haven't seen Lori in like 30 years. Who the hell knows? They have no idea where she is. Now, from a writing standpoint, that's smart in terms of the symmetry, because you say "wherever you are," and then it cuts to Lori in the back of the pickup truck bleeding to death. That's where she is. So I get that. It works. It's nice. It's nice use of a little bit of cinematic language, but it's nice. I get it. It cuts together well. But that's why. And then of course you mix that, I think, with the bartender's accent a bit, and I'm paying attention, but I'm, looking at everybody else, and I'm, lost in the moment and things like that. And I think that's why it went over my head. So that's why, of course, it makes sense then why you would not have an emotional, nuanced breathing room reunion between Tommy and Lori, because who's to say that they didn't just fucking have lunch 6 weeks ago, right? Because when Tommy but when he rushed into the hospital room and it's like, "Lori, Lori, Lori." And, she's like, "Tommy," whatever. And he's like, "Listen, Marion's dead." And I'm like, "Oh my God," I'm under the impression that they haven't seen each other in years. And I was hoping for more of like an emotional reunion like that. Despite what you think of the movie, like that moment in The Force Awakens when Han and Leia, see each other for the first time in years, or whatever it is. And like, I was expecting more of that. Now, I understand the more legacy characters you have in a movie, you certainly can't be doing that for everybody. I get that it takes up a lot of screen time and all that kind of jazz. But as a fan, thinking of it from an emotional sort of standpoint, now, of course it makes sense why you wouldn't do that, because who's to say they didn't have lunch 2 days earlier, right? So, but it was that line. It was the line, "wherever you are," just communicated to me that they don't know where she is. It didn't communicate to me that they spoke to Lori on the phone last week and said, "Hey, are you coming to the bar? It's Halloween. We got to do our thing." And she was like, "Nah, I don't want to. I'm just going to," It didn't communicate to me that. It communicated to me that there was a disconnect and a distance, between that. So thank you to Cody Leach for bringing that to my attention, because I was like, that's what it was. Subconsciously, that's what it was. That's why I thought that. And that's why when Tommy speaks to Karen, and is like, "Oh, hey, Karen, where's your mom?" I was like, Tommy knows Karen? I'm like, well, of course, and now it makes sense. And it would be, going with this narrative, it would be absolutely strange to have some sort of emotional breathing room reunion. Of course, it wouldn't make any fucking sense at all. However, having said that, I think I would have, if I was writing it, and I understand the more we have, it's going to be like, how are we going to get this all in there? So, but I would have loved to have seen them not know each other, or maybe everybody hasn't seen each other in a long time, and they don't necessarily all live in Haddonfield. I mean, who knows? Maybe they don't. But I would have had it where it is the events that are happening that bring everybody together. And we've seen that before. I mean, there's nothing original about that. And maybe it's a little cliche. Maybe it's a little cheesy. But from a fan perspective, from that nostalgia perspective, I think it would have been cool to have seen maybe Tommy sees something on the news, or, Marion gets wind of it because she's still connected to the hospital somehow, or I don't know, something, right? It's the events. It's Lori that brings them together. Do you know what I mean? Not commemorating or celebrating this thing every year. That just seems strange. You're going to get drunk, celebrate. Anyway, just a difference in creative choice. It totally works the way it does, but that's why I was confused. So I just want to give a shout out to Cody for that, because now it makes sense to me. But I would have written it the other way, because I would have wanted to see more of that reunion. You know what I mean? Because right now they already know each other. We're thrust into that. So this is a dislike. We're thrust into that. For me, there's no emotional connection to the legacy characters. And when you off them so quickly and in so sort of kind of, especially Brackett, where she's like, and down he goes. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel, there wasn't a moment where I could feel for these characters. It's cool to see them. It was cool to see them together. They served their purpose, absolutely. But I think if you'd slowed it down, have a bit more breathing room, maybe got rid of a few things, you could have allowed for more character development, and you could have allowed for us to be a little more attached to these legacy characters. Because right now I cared about them just as much as I cared about, it just wasn't there for me, even on third watch. Now, again, on subsequent watches, maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get better, right? But there's reasons for that, of course. But I think the excuse that some people are using, like, well, it's supposed to be campy. Is it though? Is it? Is it really supposed to be campy? Because then I would question the creative choice. Why are we adding 80s campy cheese into a serious narrative about evil and rising up and, social commentary about misinformation? It just doesn't feel, the tone's off for me. So I don't believe that it's supposed to be cheesy. I would challenge that to the writers if they had told me that. I'd challenge. I'd say, really? But anyway, that's me. So where was I? I guess I was at a dislike there. A dislike there. Let's go to another like. So I liked. What was it? It was the. I love the. Oh no, but I talked about that in my other. video. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I mentioned this in my other video, but I don't think maybe I gave it enough attention. The music, love the soundtrack. There's a lot of people out there saying they appreciate the 18 soundtrack more. That's fair. But I do think John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, Daniel Davies knock it out of the park again for this soundtrack. I think it's tremendous. There's some moments. At first, like the moment when the Shape is stalking Lindsay, right? And she runs into the trees and she's hiding there by the the swamp or whatever. At first, when I was watching it in the theater at the screening, I was like, because there really is no music. It's just the environment, the elements, which is cool. I like that. As a sound guy, I like that. There is what could be perceived as part of the soundtrack, but it's just like a don't. And at first I was like, I think I need more. Like I want more of a dun 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 ding 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 ding. You know what I mean? But actually on second and third watch, I'm like, I like this. I like the nuance of it. I like the subtlety of it. It's creepy, and the breathing. You just hear his breathing. I'll tell you, every time I watch that scene, and it's only been 3 times, I always expect him, because we see her and you hear his breathing, and his breathing basically becomes the soundtrack. And I was expecting, on first watch, to hear, and it just stops, and you just hear the elements, and she's sitting there. That would have been cool. That would have ratcheted the tension that is there up even further. And you would have had just the breathing stops, and it's like, and we're not pulling away to see if he's there or not. We're just focused on Lindsay, and she's there, and she's looking around, and she's like, and she sits up like this. And now that you would have to indicate then, could she hear the breathing then? And is that why she's, reacting and responding in the ways that she is? But, it's a movie. But she kind of sits up and she looks around or whatever and looks around, just ratchet up that tension even more. You know what I mean? Because the breathing just suddenly stops and it's like, is he there? Is he not there? That would have been cool. But yeah, the soundtrack is great. I mean, it's great. It's great. It's a great soundtrack. I'm still not crazy on the ending, not because it ends abruptly. I'm not crazy. That has nothing to do with that. I just think it's largely because of the pacing of the rest of the movie. I think there is some pacing issues. I don't think Halloween Kills is a terrible movie. I don't at all. I mean, to say it's the worst in the series is ridiculous. To say it's a bad movie, I think, is ridiculous. I just think that there's you know, I'm mixed, right? Like I'm torn. Because I think I enjoy watching this movie more than 18, but at the same time, it's that hospital stuff that's like, you know, and then the social commentary and the direction and this sort of subplot about this guy and everybody's running through the hospital, it kind of takes the wind out of any momentum. And I get what they're trying to do, but there's just, I'm still feeling it. And again, ask me a year or two from now, and maybe I'll be so used to it that I just won't care. And I'm just, that's fine. It's fine, you know? But it is still there. It is still there, even on third watch. But my favorite parts really at the end of the day, my favorite parts are the flashback, 1978, not a surprise, being who I am. I thought that was tremendously done. Didn't like seeing the lower lids of Aaron Armstrong, but that's a nitpick. But really, really, really well done. Everything about that was really, really well done. And like I mentioned in my other video, you know, I'm somebody that if it were up to me, I would not have wanted to do that. I don't want to play in that sandbox because you run the risk of fucking things up. But they did a really good job. So good that there's a lot of people out there that wish they just could have seen a 90-minute movie in that world. And I understand that, but as I've said before, and I'll say it again, yes, but what we just watched was in a small package. The longer you stay in that world, the more chances you have of fucking it up. So just because like they did really well for like 10 minutes, right? Really good. And I'm not to say that they don't have the talent or the expertise or the filmmaking acumen to do a 90-minute film in that world and blow us away. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the longer you stay in that world, the more there is an opportunity to fuck it up, right? So it's clean and dirty. You know, you're there and you're like, okay, you know, we're in and out, and it's like, okay, maybe it's better in small doses. And I didn't know how I was going to feel at first about the extension of the story. You know, they're basically extending that night, and they're creating new canon and new reasons for that to exist of what happened. So now when you watch the original Halloween, you no longer are just going to think of Halloween 2 from 1981. You're going to think of Halloween Kills. And how does that make you feel? You know, how does that make you feel? Maybe it's still too early to tell. You know, but, you know, that is going to be there now. But in terms of the execution of it all, it's fantastic. It's really, really well done. And like I said, my applause. I mean, it's not easy. I'm not easy to please. And that was really, really good. So absolutely love that. That was one of my favorite parts. I think the first 20 minutes of the movie is great. The hospital stuff in the middle is just, I don't know. It's weird. 1 minute I'm enjoying it. The next minute I'm like, holy shit, it just feels overselling, like I'm watching a stage play. And then the ending, anyway. Again, I'm trying not to repeat what I already said in my previous videos, because you can go back and watch them. This is supposed to be kind of new information, but sometimes it's hard for me to do when I'm trying to make these points. Another thing I didn't like that I think is unnecessary. This is what I mean. Another thing I didn't like that I think is unnecessary, although I do understand it does serve a purpose because it's happening while Hawkins is telling. He's explaining about the past and he's showing some exposition. So I do understand why they showed this, but I don't think it was necessary, at least this part of it. I was okay. I loved, and I mentioned this in the previous video too, but it bears repeating to make this point. I did love the cinematic tableau. You're pulling back, Myers is standing there, the symmetry of that, you know, the rhyming, the poetry of it, right? Like I love that. 63, 78, really like that. I didn't think we needed to see any more from that. I know he's caught. I know he was probably put in cuffs, probably unmasked, thrown in the back of a car, but I don't need to see that. Now, we didn't see it to that length, but when he was hit with the stick and he drops to his knees and then he's hit again and he drops to the ground and they take off his mask, and it wasn't as bad as Halloween 5, where he's kneeling in chains next to that water fountain or whatever the hell it is, toilet or whatever it is, it wasn't that bad. He didn't look completely emasculated like, you know, like that. Fuck. So it wasn't that bad. Because I was worried that when the cops are pointing at him, you know, we were going to hear, get on the ground, get on the ground, get your fucking ass on the ground. You know, and then he drops to his knees, put your hands on your head, and he puts his hands there. You know, one of the cops comes behind him and takes his hand and handcuffs. I was worried we were going to see that. And it wouldn't have surprised me. Wouldn't have surprised me if they went that far. Not at all. Nope. Wouldn't have surprised me. But I'm glad they didn't. But then there's that little extra, which is cool, right? It's cool, but there's that little extra where he's hit, and he's lying on the ground, and Loomis comes up and points the gun. I'm like, really? The cops are going to allow Loomis to shoot him in the fucking, like, really? They're just going to allow this? I mean, he's a civilian. They're going to, you know, and then of course, Hawkins, this part of the flashback when Hawkins is talking makes sense, right? Hawkins feels responsible for not just letting it happen. Right? He feels responsible. He was trying to do the right thing. You know, that he stopped Loomis, kind of like Meeker stopped Loomis in 4, right? So now, you know, I mean, again, it's neither here nor there. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, at the end of the day, this could be perceived as a nitpick, but it's an extra part of that moment that I don't think was necessary to hit him. And I mean, you could have just had Loomis walk up to him because Myers is standing there. You could have had Loomis walk up to him with his gun and just point it at the back of his head. He didn't need to be to be on the ground. He didn't need to be demasked and lying there on the ground. Loomis could have just walked up to him and Hawkins stopped him, right? You didn't need to hit him till he falls to the ground and whatnot. Again, it's not a big deal, but it's just, you know, little differences in creative choices, right? But the cinematic tableau of the mirroring of the 78th was great. Yeah, really loved that. Thought that was really well done. That's what I would have done. Yeah, really, really like that. So I love that too. So anyway, let's go over to the chat room now. I have to go back and answer some of your super chats. But those are some more likes and dislikes that I found on my third watch. If you want to know more of my likes and dislikes, please, by all means, go into watch my previous videos on it. I did like all the one kill I wasn't crazy on. And I think it was because of, I don't know. It was the kill on Big John. Big John was yeah, I think it was him. I wasn't crazy on that kill. I don't know what it was. He stabbed him in the side, and I get all that. I just wasn't, you know, and I will say this, on third watch, I will say that I think the Big John, Little John stuff, it's cute. I get it. I get what they're going for. Myers' house looks fucking amazing. Like, I mean, to the set decks. I mean, or the set designers. Oh my God. That shit's in a studio. That street is in a humongous building in a studio. They shot that on a soundstage in Carolina, North Carolina, I think. Holy fuck. Like, I mean, fuck. It looks amazing. That's a like. I mean, I talked about that in my other likes, but I just have to emphasize that. Holy shit. It's amazing. But the Little John, Big John stuff, I don't know, felt maybe a little played out. You know, like I think by the time they do die, I'm kind of like, okay, this is played out a little bit. You know, I don't, it just feels like I think it should have been taken more seriously. You know, I think again, it's just a tone thing, right? You know, it's not bad. It's not fucking peanut butter on my penis. Darren's like, what the hell's wrong with that? I don't get it. Well, you damn North Americans. And I laughed. I laughed when he walked by the mirror and he was like, oh, okay. You know, I was like, that's funny. You know, I get it, right? I get what they're going, and it works. It works. I just thought maybe it was a little played out, you know? But I did like all the kills. Man. They were fun. They were fun to watch. Oh yeah, they were fun to watch, for sure. Of course it's fun to watch that kind of shit. I love that. Anyway, so yeah, comment below and let me know. How many times have you watched it? How many times have you seen it? You know, I'm 3 right now. I think I'm going to take a bit of a break. I think I need to let things marinate a bit and just kind of take a bit of a break and you know, just kind of, yeah, just take a bit of a break and let things sit for a bit and then maybe watch it again soon. But I think 3's enough for now. I've got a good grasp on kind of what I liked and what I didn't like. And like I said, I don't hate the movie. But it does, funny enough, it does make me appreciate the 18 film more. I think, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I think Halloween 18, again, I did not like the movie, but I think it is a better made movie than Halloween Kills. I think it is more consistent tonally. And I think maybe if I have to go back and watch H18 again. Like I know I watched it last week on Two Dudes, but when you're watching it as like a watch party thing, you're like half watching it. You know what I mean? Because you're talking to you guys, you're talking to Tony, the volume's kind of low because you got to hear Tony. You know what I mean? Like you're half watching it. So I actually have to sit down and watch it. But I think it's a better made movie structurally, pacing, script. I think it's better. I got to be honest. Not that Kills is bad. I don't think it's bad. I think it has its good moments, but I think structurally and pacing, Kills is, I don't know what's going on here. It's very, very, very strange. But anyway, let's go over to the chat. Let's go to the chat. Let me just go back here and go to my monetization, go to super chats, because I can't scroll back, so I got to go actually into my YouTube studio here. Wow, holy shit, a lot came in. You guys are fucking amazing. Okay, Rick W. sends in $9.99. Thank you, Rick, and says, Dave, do you think the decision to move ends to present day is due to the fact that most of the surviving characters are severely injured? No, I don't think so, because I think the likelihood of Tommy, Brackett, and Karen actually being dead in the next movie, I think is real. I think you need to do that in order to give your film bottom and some weight. I hope they don't Marvel this shit and now everybody, is a Hawkins, and they could do that. I mean, listen, if you can have Hawkins survive, he was stabbed in the jugular, and he was run over by a fucking SUV. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could probably bring back everybody. I hope they don't do that though. So no, I don't think so. I think it was because that wasn't the original intent. The original intent was to do all 3 movies in the same night. I think the delay, and I believe David Gordon Green has even said this, the delay because of the pandemic has allowed them to go back and reassess things. And now they feel they have something better. Is it better? I don't know, but they feel it is. So that's why they're doing it. Jordan Ellis sends in $19.99, a very generous super chat. Thank you, Jordan. Hey, Dave, what exactly about the beatdown of Michael's scene in H Kills do you not like? I personally thought the film was building toward that happening. It was building toward that happening. I didn't like the way it was shot. So it was more about spatial awareness. Like with the firefighters, you actually saw, I mean, there were quick cuts, but you knew where you were in the space as an audience member. And you could see Michael, with the characters in the same space, hitting them, stabbing them, the whole thing. Like you could see it. You knew where you were in relation to everything. With the beatdown, it was a little more like John Wick in a dark room, kind of like, I don't know where I am here. And sometimes they do that to create the illusion of commotion and, fast cuts, hysteria. I mean, it's a filmmaking technique, and it can work. It absolutely can work. And it works. It certainly works. But I think I was just hoping for a little more, kind of to see a little more of what's going on. It felt a little too, I didn't know what was happening. Like maybe a little too stylized, perhaps, maybe. So that's all. That's really, like, the idea of them beating him down, that's not necessarily the story I would have written, but looking at it in this story, you're right. That's what they're building to. Of course, it's a mob, right? They're all out to get Michael Myers. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but apparently Evil was going to die that night. Like, I don't know if you know that or not, okay? I don't know if they said that or not, but, Evil was apparently gonna die. And so, absolutely was building to that. It was just the way it was shot. It was certain moments when Michael, not when they were attacking Michael necessarily, but when Michael was attacking them, felt a little too, but again, I mean, maybe I'll watch it again and I might be okay with it. I mean, it's just, but that's what I'm talking about there. Kevin Fishgall sends in $5 and says, I love how Myers setting up Big and Little John's bodies, how they are in the photograph, but backwards because his brain can't comprehend he did it wrong. I wouldn't necessarily say that Michael's brain can't comprehend that he did it wrong. I mean, certainly you could allude to that. But I wouldn't necessarily say that was the reason. But I will say that I do appreciate in this movie, maybe this is another like that I should have talked about. I do appreciate the display of bodies, because that was part of Michael's MO in the original film. And we saw less of that. Not that we didn't see any of it in any films, but certainly I think this is a movie where we see a lot of that. We do see a lot of that. And that was kind of cool. So I did appreciate that. Now, the record player I probably would have done without. That seems a little too conscious, a little too human, a little too specific to turn on a record player. But I mean, again, you could go back to the original film and go, yeah, but look at the tombstone and all that kind of stuff. And, these are little things that I'm kind of like, I'm still sort of searching my feelings with how I feel about it. But certainly the act of displaying them, yeah, I think was kind of cool. We hadn't seen that kind of thing in a while. Mohammed Nabil, I believe, sends in 25. I don't know what that is, but thank you very much. I don't know what denomination that is, but thank you. Hey, Dave, big supporter. A bit off topic, but can I ask your opinion on something in relation to voiceover and voice acting? Absolutely. Fire away, my man. Fire away. I don't know if you did before, but I'll check. But yes. Please do. William McLeod sends in £5 and says, what changes, edits would you make to us to the final part of this trilogy? I don't know. I don't know because I don't know what ends is yet. I have to see ends. Like, I have to see ends to know what I would do differently, because it's one big story arc, right? These are not, like I have to kind of see where it's going. So it's difficult for me to sort of answer that without knowing what ends is going to be like. So maybe this time next year, I'll be able to answer that. Ryan Lewis sends in $4.99 and says, only thing I didn't dig about the flashback was the fact that the coveralls are wrong and it didn't have Loomis's bullet holes in them. Well, the coveralls is an area of contention, because the coveralls are not nearly as green as people seem to think they are, but they're not nearly as blue as others seem to think they are. They are more of, I had this conversation with Nick Castle, actually, when I met him several years ago. And he said he remembered them being sort of a not green, but more of kind of like almost like a greenish bluish, like a very sort of, I forget what it is, but there is a color, and it's kind of a hybrid. When you see, like, there's a photo that people, and it's because people don't understand this. There's a photo of a screen grab from Nick Castle from the first movie, and he's smashing the knife into the couch, and Laurie's kind of like, oh my God, like this, right? And his arm is in the light, and it looks very green. But yet the rest of him is in shadow, and it looks very blue. That green is not the green of the uniform. The uniform. The jumpsuit. The coveralls. It's not that green. It looks that green because of the light, right? Because of how the light is hitting the suit, and because of any sort of color correction that they have done as well. Nick told me, yeah, it's like a bluish dark, like a greeny dark blue sort of. It's in that hybrid, which is why there's so much contention around it, and why people think it's this, but then people think it's this, then people think it's this, then people think it's this. So for me to see the coveralls the way they did it, it's fine. It was fine. It was fine because it looked that way in the first movie really anyway. So it worked for me. It didn't bother me. Now, the lack of bullet holes on him, that is something that's interesting. I agree with you. I think that maybe there should have been a few little something there. And unless it was there, but it was a little too, maybe a little too nuanced, a little too kind of obscure, I'm not sure. But that's a question for Christopher Nelson. So the next time that the thing with two heads is on over on Malfunction, maybe that's a question you'll have to ask Christopher Nelson. I'm sure he'd have an answer for that. Mikey Films just donates $1. Thank you very much, Mikey. I appreciate that. Jack Carter sends in $8.99 British pounds, not 899. That's, yeah, okay. Dave, what do you think of how Myers got caught in 78? It was such a risky territory to go there, but I thought the idea of him getting caught to the same exact way he did when he was 6 years old was very clever. I could not agree more. I talked about that just a few moments ago. Absolutely. Yeah, I think if you're going to do it, that's the way you do it. You know, he's not beaten down in some alley and handcuffed and thrown up against the back of a, cruiser and then, I was worried that we were going to see something like that. I believe they did it really nicely here. Could not agree more. Gavin _ the nerd sends in $2 and says, if not for JJC, that's James Jude Courtney, folks, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Fascinating. Oh yeah, James Jude Courtney. Well, I got to say that too. That's another like that I don't think I specified really in my previous videos, and I forgot here, but I did make a tweet about this, so it's out there. James Jude Courtney, I'm going to read you my tweet actually, folks. I'm going to read you my tweet because this is totally true. Totally true. Let me read you my tweet here. Twitter. Head over to Twitter. And by the way, thank you all to everybody who has started following me on Twitter. I think I've gained about 300 new followers over the last, maybe not 300, maybe 200 over the last few days. So thank you for that. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook if you haven't already. I said James Jude Courtney continues to solidify his legacy in H-Kills as one of the all-time greats to play the role. From subtle head tilts to the nuanced movements, I am once again believing he's the evolution of the same Michael Myers from 1978. And, that's how I felt about him in Halloween 18. That was actually one of the big praises I had about that movie was the portrayal of Michael Myers. I believed he was the same guy. Yes, I know he's 6'3" and Nick Castle's 5'10", and there's a 5-inch difference. Sure. But in terms, again, it's the subtleties. I'm going to say this word. And I know I say it a lot, but it's true. The nuance of the movements, the idiosyncrasies and he nailed that. He worked really closely with Christopher Nelson on that first movie, especially to be very conscious of that. Make it his own, do his own thing, but bring the essence of the character there. So I look at him and I think to myself, I believe he's the same guy. I don't look at Don Shanks or George P. Wilbur. Not that, listen, they have their own, whatever, right? But I don't necessarily believe he's the same guy. I do with James Jude Courtney. I believe that this is a guy 40 years later. He's older, but there's that, like when he was chasing Karen, when Karen had his mask and he's chasing Karen through the alleyway and all that, and just the way he's walking, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally believe that's the same guy that was walking across the street in 1978 after Laurie Strode. The keys. I totally believe that. It's just the way, again, it's very subtle, but it's there. It's there. So, huge shout out. I didn't mention it in my likes video. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's just so obvious to me. Maybe that's why. And it's just kind of like, yeah, duh, he's amazing. Duh. Maybe that's why I forgot to mention it. And I mentioned the tweet and why I forgot to mention it in this video in the beginning. But yes, shout out James Jude Courtney. Dude, you are killing it, man. No pun intended. You are killing it. And it's not easy to please fucking nerdy. Well, actually, what's going on? It's not easy to please guys like me, especially in that territory. So shout out. You've done an amazing job, man. You're awesome. And I can't wait to see what you do in Kills. Cool stuff. So yes, absolutely. I agree with you there. Let me see here. Where did I leave off? Right. JJ Abrams? No. $4.99 says the movie was great if you want to see Michael kill and enjoy gore. In regards to the plot and the story, it felt like General Hospital meets Halloween. Well, yeah, and that's why in the past I've said many times, what do you want from your Halloween? What do you want? What kind of Halloween fan are you? I don't think that's an inaccurate statement to make. Because depending on what kind of a Halloween fan you are, because not every Halloween fan cares about the same things. It's just the reality of being a fan. And so, if you just want Michael to tear shit up and you really don't care about the camp, well, it's not going to bother. Look, there are people that love this movie. There are people that love this movie and don't care about the inconsistencies with the pacing or the overselling of the dialogue or what. They don't care about that stuff. They love Michael. And that's awesome. I celebrate that. I do. But yeah, so I agree with you. I agree with you that if that's what you're looking for, then you're probably going to like it a lot. For me, us hardcores, us, very sweaty guys, in the Halloween realm. I'm actually not a sweaty guy, but, we tend to, hold it to maybe a bit of a different standard, so like I can get behind cheesy dialogue. I can get behind campy dialogue. I can get behind, overselling of certain things when the rest of the movie matches it, when the rest of the movie feels like it's not taking itself too seriously, right? Like Sleepaway Camp or Friday the 13th Part 6 or, because it makes sense. But when you're telling me that this is and the message is so serious and, about, misinformation and mob mentality and what happens to society when we don't do our due diligence and rising up against oppression and evil and keeping us down and, generational trauma and all that. Like that's heavy shit. That's fucking heavy shit. Okay, that's awesome. Great. But then why? But then I just feel that then the rest of the movie should match that. Right? If this is where we are, well, let's bring everything up here. That's just me. And again, maybe that's what they tried to do. I don't know. And before I move on, let me say this. I'm a filmmaker. It's very, very hard making movies. Very hard. I don't say these things because I'm saying the movie shit and the filmmakers are, dumb and they don't care. That's not what I'm saying, because they care about Halloween. They went out, they made the best movie they tried to make, and in a lot of aspects they delivered, right? There's some aspects I don't think they delivered on, but there's some aspects they did. And making movies is tough, man. It's not fucking easy. And if you've never made a movie and you don't work in the industry, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Unless you can relate it to something else, of course. But it's tough. It is very, very difficult. So, but I'm a Halloween fan too. So I come at this from a fan perspective as well. So keep that in mind too. I'm not throwing shade at anybody. Cajun Horror Talk sends in $20 and says, people are, and thank you very much, $20, Jesus. People are complaining about there being no main character. I feel like the case could be made that 1978 was a Loomis story. Oh, I could see that. And 2018 was undoubtedly Laurie's story, and Kills is about Michael. Michael is the main character. Well, I think there is an argument to be made for that. But I think when you examine the other Halloween films, there's an argument to be made that Michael is, if not the main character, a main character. I mean, I don't think Michael, in my opinion, I don't think Michael was any more or less of a focus or character in this movie than he was in any other movie he's ever been in. And those include the films that, are no longer canon. That's how I feel. You may feel differently, and that's fair, but I don't feel that. Like, I didn't walk away going, oh, this is totally Michael's story. I don't feel that. I think maybe part of the reason, and I'm purely speculating, part of the reason why some might feel that way is because maybe most of the things you like in this movie are all Michael things. And therefore you tend to gravitate towards that. And all the other things you don't like is the stuff that's not Michael, like a lot of the hospital stuff or whatever. So it might feel more like a Michael movie than maybe it really is, because you like all the Michael stuff and he looks really cool and the mask looks really great, right? Whereas in other Halloween films, when we're not with Michael, you might tend to still really enjoy what you're watching. Do you know what I mean? Again, that's speculation. I'm just saying I think there might be a bit of circumstantial evidence to point to that. But nonetheless, that's a cool outlook, man. I appreciate that. Go Grand Guru sends in $4.99 and says, I've watched the movie 4 times and I have yet to find a smarter character. Everyone is so stupid. The only smartest character I could find was Michael. To our point, to the point I just was making, right? Well, I mean, listen, they do horror movie stuff. And sometimes that is acceptable, and you expect that and accept that because maybe the movie you're watching is Friday the 13th Part 6, is, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, Halloween Resurrection or what, because it's got this campy, it is what it is. It knows what it is. But when you try to deliver more of a serious, or what you perceive as serious, and you add a bit of the campy and they're making weird decisions, tonally, it can feel wonky and off, because you're telling your audience it's this kind of movie, but you're behaving in this kind of way. And it's like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't match, So yeah, I mean, listen, it's it's turning out to be a very divisive film. I mean, I wonder if this will be the Last Jedi. I don't think it's as bad as the Last Jedi. Okay, let me just say that. But I wonder if this will be the Last Jedi of the Halloween franchise, or of this new timeline. Jesus, oh my God. Nick Kunda sends in $5 and says, Dave, I love the line Hawkins says, and in that moment, all I could think that inside that monster was somebody's baby boy. That's a great line. It's a great line. He also has a line that says, Michael has the mind of a 6-year-old child, the mind of a 6-year-old, the strength of a man, and the strength of a man, and something of a monster or something, whatever it was. Anyway, that line too, I really liked. I liked that line too. No, look, Will Patton is a great character actor, and Jamie Lee Curtis is a good actress. So again, acting is reacting, right? Maybe, and I'm just saying, maybe Judy Greer's not that great of an actress. I don't know. I really haven't seen anything else she's been in, I'll be honest with you. And I'm not saying Judy Greer isn't a good actress. That's not what I'm saying. Shout out to Judy Greer, okay? Like, seriously, you're fucking amazing. Seriously, but I'm just saying, maybe in this role, or maybe with the direction she was given, maybe that's why her character is supposed to come off as hammy and campy and a little cheesy. I don't know. It's strange to me. I haven't seen her in anything she's been in, so this is not throwing shade at her. Please do not misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I don't know her well enough to make this informed. I don't know her well enough to make an informed opinion on the scenes with Greer and Curtis. But I have seen Will Patton in a lot of other shit. And I have seen Curtis in a lot of other shit. And I know that they're very talented. So it doesn't surprise me that the scene between them is very strong and very believable. And there's nothing cheesy about it at all. That doesn't surprise me. And like I said in my other video, there's a lot of it just could be the writing. It's just, this is, as Harrison Ford said, you can write this shit, but you can't say it. People don't talk like that. I mentioned that in my previous video, where there is a lot of that. There's a lot of people don't talk like this. And you're asking maybe too much of these actors to make this sound conversational. In voiceover, it's called conversational, and maybe that's part of the issue. Oh, I know that could be part of the issue, actually. There's a lot of dialogue that just doesn't sound like people would speak like that, behave this way. And so, another thing I didn't like, and it's affecting me every time I watch it. I've only watched it 3 times now. But another thing I didn't like was when Karen is being told, Barker says, "They didn't tell you? Michael Myers is alive." And then it cuts to, from a directing standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, I understand the editing choices. I understand why they've made this choice and the language they're trying and what they're communicating by doing this. But I didn't believe Andy Matichek's performance when she goes, "What?" I was like, it felt staged. It felt like they just had her in a room and they said, "Okay, on the count of 3, we want you to go, 'What?'" And give me a couple of them. Okay, 1, 2, 3, action. "What?" What? It didn't sound like it was the end of an exchange, Now, maybe it was, and maybe it was cut. I don't know how they directed that scene. But I felt like maybe she needed a bit of a lead-in line. In voiceover, we have something that's called a lead-in line to help you get into character. It's something that you recite or you say that's not necessarily on the script to help you find your footing, your tone, and then you go into the performance. It just felt like they just had her in a room and they just had her say "what," 2 or 3 times out loud. And it just felt strange. I don't know if anybody else got that, but it just felt kind of strange. And if Damon Vaughn is calling me a hater, well, get the fuck out of here. Please. A hater. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm a hater. I'm a total hater. I'm just a hater. I fucking hate it. I'm just a fucking hater. But I didn't think that I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that. And like I said, folks, you come to my channel, I'm going to tell you what I think. If you don't like what I think, I don't care. You have to go and watch the movie and make up your mind on how you feel. And if you loved it, I celebrate that. I celebrate it. I think that's awesome, right? Don't come to me for me to tell you what you should think. That's called confirmation bias and groupthink. That's not what I'm about here, okay? I tell you what I think, and then if you agree, that's awesome. If you don't, that's okay. That's okay. If you loved it, I celebrate that. 100%. If what didn't bother you, that's amazing. That's awesome. In the 3 times I've seen it, it just feels a little staged, as a lot of the dialogue does in the hospital stuff. So that's all. You know, it doesn't make the movie horrendous and it's the worst, it's the most awful movie in motion picture history. No, of course not. There's just little things like that. And I'm not the only one that feels that way, right? So anyway, please. A hater. If I was a hater, all I'd be doing is hating. I'd be like, James Jude Courtney, fucking shit. Fucking shit, man. Fucking shit. That firefighter scene, fucking shit, man. It's bullshit. It's dumb. Fucking hated it. Lonnie, bullshit. The music's crap. Music's crap, man. Music's crap. Come on. Come on. You're better than that. You're better than that, buddy. I know you are. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? Boy, a lot of these super chats, guys, you guys are awesome. I have to refresh this. Okay, where did I leave off here? I left off at, Nick Kunda. Yes. Right. Got that. Okay. Go Grand Guru, right? If Lori 499, thank you, buddy. If Lori and the entire town is this serious about ending Michael, why didn't Lori call Tommy and friends in the last movie? She has the entire daytime. There's a lot of logical things that, well, I think it's just, to your point, I think it's just hard for fans, not hard for everybody, right? But for somebody like me, I have trouble believing that the authenticity of that they would care this much 40 years later. And as I've said before, who am I to fucking question somebody's PTSD? I mean, Jesus, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I just can't help but feel that if Halloween 2 had been canon, 1981, and I understand why it's not. They would have to justify them being brother and sister, or why all of a sudden they're not, and they would have to justify how he survived the fire, right? You know what I mean? That's impossible. I get why it was the right decision to make. From that perspective, right decision to make. However, because there was a massacre at Haddonfield Memorial in Halloween 2, you almost feel like it would make sense from a story perspective why all these doctors and nurses and everybody in this hospital is suddenly rising up, because it feels personal. I mean, even though it's not the same hospital, they're using the same name and the same logo. Now that's fan service, but it almost feels like I would believe these doctors. Now, it's not the same doctors, obviously, but maybe it's, their kids, or it's just the fact that it's the hospital. They're like, fuck that. No, he fucking murdered, 5 nurses and 3 doctors, and in this hospital, we're not gonna, because then it becomes personal, right? And then it just, the whole movie, the higher body count adds to the hysteria, I mean, even though I'm a huge proponent of negating Halloween 2, because I think, the first movie is really all there is, the more they ask, and I mentioned this in my other video, but it bears repeating here. The more they ask of our audience to believe that the town would be this crazy and this affected, the more I have trouble believing it. Am I the only one? I hate to say that, because who the fuck am I to say that? The more they ask of us to believe that this is affecting the entire town on a very primal sort of psychological level, the more I have trouble believing it. That sounds awful to say. It sounds like I'm not being empathetic towards somebody's PTSD, and that's not what's happening here. I'm just talking from a story perspective. I almost feel like it would be more believable if part 2 was canon, but I understand why it's not canon. It's like a catch-22. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, Anyway, now I get it, dude. I get it. Nabra, Twitch Clips and Let. It's kind of cool. Sends in $5. Says, I think Cameron did a great performance for his short screen time. When Michael Myers charged at him from the closet, Cameron's terror was really convincing. Could not agree more. That's actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I talked about that in my last video. Yeah, no, I really like that a lot, actually. That's, I think unless he's still a dick, he still fucking made out with this other girl. Like, I really don't know how their relationship can continue, because he literally was physically with somebody. So, you know, but in the mix of this kind of thing, in terms of a character, had a bit of a redeeming moment. All right, Cameron. All right, you're a fucking douchebag, but you're kind of cool for that. Metal Coffee sends in $5, just a donation. Thank you very much. Mason James sends in $10. Says, Dave, I did not like the crunchy part where Dr. Loomis came. The crunchy part where Dr. Loomis came in. What did Michael do? Did he kill again? I'm like, what do you think he's done skipping down the street, flying a kite, sucking a lollipop? Well, I think, okay, here's why it's said. It's really just to hammer home Hawkins' character, okay? So Hawkins accidentally shot his buddy, right? And he's like, oh my God. And when Dr. Loomis comes in, he's like, Hawkins, did he kill? Did he kill again? What's going on? Yeah, if you take it at face value, it's kind of like, well, what? But then again, it's also a legitimate question because Loomis doesn't know. He's not asking, well, it's like, yeah, of course he's going to kill, but maybe he didn't, right? Maybe his buddy is just up there and he hasn't come around the corner yet. I mean, it feels like a legitimate question, but really what it's for is so you can look at Hawkins hesitate, because Hawkins doesn't know what to say. There's a dead police officer lying up in Judith's bedroom, and Michael was trying to kill him, but Michael wasn't the one that did. And so now you see the guilt. So that's really what that's all it is. It's a device to be able to show Hawkins feeling guilt and hesitating, in answering the question, right? Because did he kill again or whatever? And it's like, well, he didn't, but I did, and he doesn't know what to say, right? So it didn't bother me. Like, I get why it's there. I get why they had Loomis say that. And they could have had anybody say it. They could have had one of the cops come in and say it or whatever, and it still would have done the same thing. But don't read too much into it. Like, don't read it into that Loomis all of a sudden is absent-minded and he doesn't know and he thinks that Michael's skipping down the street. Nah, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just really, it's a legitimate question, but it's also to sort of, it's more about Hawkins, right? And showing the guilt, showing his hesitation on answering that question because he didn't kill. Hawkins did by accident. Jesus Freak Bobby Reeves sends in $4.99, says, I noticed Tommy saying, here's to Lori, wherever you are yesterday. I commented on your post about that and then saw Cody Leach said it too. Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's what it was. That's why I was under the impression that everybody didn't know where she was. They lost contact with her. That's why, wherever you are, yeah, that's what it was. That makes total sense to me now. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I'm not a fucking idiot. Must Be Matt sends in $1.99, says, are you pretty satisfied with this movie? Still too early to say. I'm torn. Right. And I don't think I need to make a decision right now. When you are a purist, when you are a hardcore fan, in terms of the original intent and the original sort of story and the mythology that was created, you can put that away and enjoy the sequels for what they are. But when you are being asked a lot of, this now and in terms now, I will say this, of course, this is the new direction they're going in is following the direction of the original mythology, right? From the original film. So they're like, in that sense, it is more in line with the history and the writing than any of the other sequels ever have been. Okay. So, in that essence, I respect that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to like every creative decision or agree with every creative decision that they make, because, there's so many different ways that you can present that as well. So I think it's still too early for me to say that, am I pretty satisfied? I'm satisfied with some things in it, for sure. But I'm also disheartened and confused by other things. So for me, I feel almost more torn by this movie than I did H-18. I liked H-18. I mean, I know for some, I gave it a C+ back in my review 3 years ago. And for some of you, that might be very harsh, but there's specific reasons why. I didn't give it a C+ because it wasn't in line with the original film. It was more just about tone and creative decisions that were made on how they handled the shape and all that kind of stuff. But I think at this point in time, I think it's a better made movie overall. Like I said, structurally, pacing, script, as cheesy as the dialogue is, some of the comedy I didn't like in that movie, I think it's just an overall better made film. So I feel more torn with Kills. So I think it's going to take a while for me to kind of, because I'm more new. I mean, yes, look, it would be very easy for me to say Kills is a fucking disaster. You know what I mean? Because some people have said that, but I tend to take more of a nuanced approach. I tend to kind of just really, and it's because I'm a hardcore fan, and I tend to really dissect and open it all up and do a full autopsy. So to give you my full results, sometimes autopsy reports take months, folks. So, and the reason why I was able to give you my thoughts so quickly on H-18 after the movie was released was because I saw it at the world premiere in Toronto here at TIFF 6 weeks before you guys saw it. I mean, unless you were able to see it at the premiere too, of course, but before it was released to the general public. So that Halloween 18 review video that you watched of mine, that was 6 weeks in the making. I was making that over the 6 weeks and then released it on the day the film was released. Well, I didn't have that here. I was able to see an advanced showing of Kills, but it was only 2 days before the film was released. So, I'm still in that mode where I need time before I give you my full autopsy report. So I appreciate your patience on that. Let's see here. Mason James sends in $5 and says six shots to the chest, pitchfork in the back, knife in the back. Allison, 3 knife jabs. Gut. Mortal. I feel Halloween 5 and 6. Michael again. Well, you may feel that way, but according to David Gordon Green, he's still a man. I'm just saying. Nah on that. The More You Know, $10. Thank you, buddy. He says, it seemed like the movie had to keep cutting 2 different scenes when the tension was hot and the hospital scenes were drawn out too much. Still enjoyed the movie, but wasn't the big fireworks show. I agree. I agree with that. I was expecting from the killing side too. Listen, there's a lot of carnage and it's gory, and what carnage there is in death, it's fucking great. Shout out to Christopher Nelson and company. Sincerely, like, you guys fucking knocked it out of the park. That's not easy shit. But I think with how hyped it was being, how hyped everything was, I was expecting more. Which is kind of, it's kind of weird, and that makes it seem like they had hardly anything in it. And no, they didn't. It was insane. But I was expecting more. Matthew Jensen sends in $5 and says, for how many times they said evil dies tonight, I'm surprised it didn't cut to Mermaid Man from SpongeBob shouting evil, evil. I'm sure somebody's going to do that now, though. Somebody's going to have a compilation of the evil dies tonight. Oh, yeah, it was... At the end of the day, the only person that should have said it was Laurie Strode. I don't know why they had so many people. I mean, again, I get, just have, Laurie said it, Brackett said it, that lady in the hospital said it, I think Tommy said it twice, I think. Marion said it in the bar out of nowhere, which was very strange. I don't even understand why she would say that. That was weird. That came out of nowhere. And it was weird on first watch for me too. Overdone. I mean, and I hate to say this, unfortunately they said it so much, it's going to become a punchline in the Halloween space. When it's going to become a joke. And I hate to say that, but I could see it becoming that, when somebody wants to make a quip or a joke, they'll be like, well, evil dies tonight, and it just becomes funny then, it's too bad. Because I think it's a good line. Like, the line, evil dies tonight, in and of itself, it's a great line. It's a great fucking line. That's a great line. But you just say it once, you can take any line that's a great line, and if you overuse it and overplay it and play it out too much in such a short period of time, you can make anything sound really cringe, It was a little hokey, folks. It was a little hokey. Anthony Stanfield sends in $5, says, what are your feelings on the shots with the Myers unmasked? Oh, I thought they did it very well. Now, again, you might think to yourself, well, you should hate that stuff because you're a Halloween, but it's consistent. It's consistent with what they did in Halloween 18. So I have to watch it from that perspective. It's consistent, and I really like that they didn't show his face. I mean, they showed his face, but they didn't show his face. I thought that was handled very well. Now, that could have been done. That could be part lighting as well, obviously, but they could have also put a mask, not that kind of a mask, but in post, what you can do is it's called a mask, right? And they put a mask over in post, and they can drop the exposure on just your face, and then because James is actually walking, they would have to track it, right? So they would have to actually track it so it goes with him. And of course, when you're working at a Hollywood level film, you can do that, no problem. That's like post-production, digital stuff 101 with the right people. We had a bit of masking actually in It's Me, Billy. So that it could be a combination of that. I don't know if it was all just how it was lit, and maybe in post-production just dropping maybe some of the, I'm not sure. I would love to know actually, just because I find that shit interesting. Having said that, nerd alert, technical nerd alert stuff out of the side, or over to the side, I should say. I liked the end result, it was good. Yeah. It didn't bother me because he was still in shadow. He was still in shadow, couldn't really see anything. And even with, the close up of his eye when he's putting it on, well, I like that. It's just kind of there. He's still a mystery. It was done classy. You know what I mean? Would I have done that? Not necessarily, but I appreciate what they did. They didn't just because they could have easily had him standing in the door. Like they could have, when they're showing the mask, right? The mask is in the foreground, out of focus. James is standing in the doorway of the Myers house. Sorry, the mask is in focus, I should say. I think I said that. Or I didn't say that. So the mask is in focus in the foreground. James is in the background, out of focus. They didn't pull focus. They didn't rack focus, right? They could have done that. They could have changed focus. So all of a sudden you pull focus, the mask becomes out of focus, and James is in, and there he is standing there without his mask. How many movies have we seen do that? How many horror movies have we seen do that? They could have, they didn't. They didn't do that because you can't do that. You can't show him. They know that. So I appreciated it. I liked it. Mohammed Nabil. Oh, here we go. Thank you, buddy. Sends in 100 AED. Again, I'm not sure, but I appreciate that. Maybe that's like $10 million. I don't know. No. Says, as a voice actor, do you have any performance that you admire? I'm no voice actor, but I adore the voiceover in Goodfellas, my favorite movie. The voiceover in Goodfellas? You mean, what do you mean? Like the movie for the trailer? I think it has so many layers and tones to it. Do you have any thoughts on it and on the movie? Well, I adore the movie. Goodfellas is a terrific film. Oh, you mean the voiceover in terms of the narration? You mean when what's his face is narrating his life? Well, I mean, it's just what's his face? It's just God, why is his name escaping me? Jesus Christ. His name is escaping me for some reason. Having a major brain fart. Ray Liotta. That's it. Ray Liotta. Yeah. Ray Liotta is narrating it, right? It's his voice. I don't mind it. But in terms of what my voiceover performance, well, I've been doing this for over 20 years at the professional level. I've been doing it full time for 15 years. This is my full-time job. Not YouTube, but as a voice actor, I have a voiceover session tomorrow morning. I'm doing a bunch of Black Friday spots for Staples. That's right. We record them this early, folks. So I would say that I mean, there's been so much, and I don't say that in a braggadocious way. I say that when you've been doing this as long as I have, you've done thousands of spots and ads and promos. I would say some of my highlights are my very first movie trailer I ever voiced was for The Descent. That was a lot of fun. That was really cool. I had an opportunity to be one of the guys that did a trailer for It Chapter 1. That was awesome. I've done promo spots for some Disney stuff, Inside Out, the Lego Batman movie, that's Warner Brothers. Just so many commercials and products and services. I mean, I don't think there's one thing that stands out, but I will say that anytime I get to do something really big, like when I did this, like a spot it was a spot. It was a 30-second spot for It Chapter 1. I mean, that's fucking cool, man. And it's not, even though I've been doing this for a long time, and very rarely do I get sort of like, wow, this is kind of cool, because I've done so much now. That's still kind of cool. That's still like, wow, this is really kind of cool, So that stands out to me. Yeah, there's just so much. I mean, I'm getting into a lot of animation now more, which is great, because for many years I had I spent a lot of time in the commercial promo and trailer area. So in terms of my portfolio, I'm very, I have a very thick portfolio when it comes to radio and television commercials, network promos, movie and game trailers, and I have a lot of work from that. The animation side, which I absolutely love, I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build up more. So I've been doing a lot of animation actually over the last several months, and I'm doing some animation next week. I have an animation. I think it's a half hour. There's a cute little show called Where Oliver Fits, and we just did a half hour special, a Christmas special, which I think will be released online in December, I think, because it's Christmas. And I play Santa Claus and a couple of elves, and I play the grandpa and the dad. And there's a few. I've posted a few clips of this stuff on my social media, so you should check that out. And then I have some other things that are coming down the pipe too in the world of animation that I'm excited about. So it's hard to pick one because there's so much I've done. But I would say, when you get to do something like a spot for It Chapter 1, it's pretty fucking cool. I will say that. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Keldon, my man, Keldon, sends in, where are you here? Keldon sends in $2, says, ER cuts cloths off the check for GSW, hard to see. ER cuts cloths off to check for GSW. Hard to see. I'm not sure what you mean. Who's ER? Who's GSW? I mean, somebody in the chat's going to let me know. Somebody in the chat, please let me know. Nerd Report, my man my man Lewis says, did Michael have an injured eye in the flashbacks? I think it was hard to see. Because we're really only, it's very quick and it's vague, and we're really only seeing like the skin here, we're not, H2Oing it, right? We're seeing like his eyeballs. It's very and he's moving, and it's kind of hard to see. So I'm not sure, Lewis. That's a very good point. PC Pierce sends in $9.99. Thank you, PC Pierce. Says, I would have liked a half-second quick cut of all the scenes from Tommy's perspective from H78 while Myers was standing over Tommy to emphasize that the boogeyman finally got him. What do you say? Well, that just comes back to, more, yes. Yeah, well, I don't know if I would have liked that, but certainly just more character development with everybody. And there was that moment when Tommy and Michael are looking at each other. He's killing him, and they did take some time. At that moment, they took a moment. Right? There was a beat. There was a couple of beats where Tommy's looking at Michael, Michael's looking at Tommy, and it's like, you know what I mean? They took that. I would have liked to have seen more of that. You know what I mean? For sure, because it allows the characters, it allows the audience, not necessarily non-Halloween fans, they don't care about that, but Halloween fans to build more of that connection. Right? It was missing. It was just cold. It was just kind of like they were just there. They were just there to be killed in some instances. So yeah, I get what you're saying. That might have been cool to see. I mean, they had a bunch of flashbacks in the movie anyway, so why not do that? That would have been cool. Yeah, sure. I'd be down for seeing what that looked like. Jesus Freak Baby Reeves sends in $1.99, says, evil dies tonight times 100. AGT Cobra sends in $1. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Matt Rayner sends in $13.99. Thank you, Matt Rayner. Says, according to David Gordon Green, the ending had more to it. It did. There was a whole different ending. Not different, but there was more. It didn't feel authentic to where we were going to go, so we lifted it, but we will be added back to the extended version of the DVD. Yes, that's what he did say. He did say that. Sorry, I'm just looking back to see. Looking back to see something. I would say that. Where are we here? Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with what David Gordon Green has said. I actually know what the original ending is because I've read the script. And I'll have to go back and look at the script again. For some strange reason, it all depends on what they do with ends. It all depends on what they do in Halloween Ends and how Halloween Ends begins. And because then we might go, oh, okay, no, I get it. And listen, they're intelligent people, whether you like the movie or not. I mean, listen, they're professional filmmakers. This isn't their first time. They can quantify and defend the reasons, I'm sure, well. So even though we might be like, this is kind of, and I look at the ending of what they had, I'm like, I still think they probably could have ended it the same way. We're never going to know until we know how Halloween Ends begins, really, at the end of the day. So that's, I agree. I read that too. Matt Rayner sends in $6.99, says, it'll be interesting how Ends will play out being set 4 years later. Could not agree more. Could not agree more. We were just talking about that, man. The Drunken Buddha sends in $4.49 British pounds. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now, let me see if I can actually go back and see if I can. Lot came in. Alex Jones. Jesus, you guys are hilarious. The Drunken Buddha. There it is. No. That's another one. Jesus. $4.49. Yeah, there we go. Okay. The Drunken Buddha sends in another one and says, Myers' house seems to be the main character, more specifically Judith's window. Yeah. Hey, folks, listen, I'm going to say this. If you want to know what I would have done for a Halloween sequel, that doesn't mean you're going to like it, but if you want to hear what I would have done, and admittedly, if I was to redo this video, there might be things I might change. But in 2019, about a month maybe or so, before they announced that they were doing 2 sequels to Halloween 18, this was before this, okay? I did a concept video. It's like 2 hours long. It's not a fan film, where I'm talking to you in the camera, okay? And I got music and all that kind of shit. And I'm laying out to you what I would have done if I would have made the sequel to Halloween 18. Now, keep in mind, this is before they made the announcement that they were doing a sequel called Kills and Ends, okay? So, check that out, because some people have asked me, can you do a concept on what you would have done with End or with Kills? And I'm like, well, I kind of did. I mean, I didn't know it was going to be, because my sequel is called The Shape, so it's not like it's called Halloween Kills, but that is what I would have done. I mean, that would have been my sequel to 18. Now, I lay it out as if it's the last movie, so I don't have like another one after that. But if you want to know what I would have done, just YouTube Dave McRae Halloween concept video or something, and it will pop up. I think it's got over 50,000 views or something. It'll pop up if you have yet to check it out. And if you have some time to spare, pull up some popcorn and listen to what I would have done. That doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything, but hopefully you'll kind of see the bigger picture of what I was trying to do to bring it all home. And anyways, I mention that because Judith's bedroom plays a part in my movie too, or in my idea anyway. All right, what else? Wayne Gottke sends in $20. Wayne, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Very generous. Says, I think in Halloween Ends, they will discover Michael's true phobia. Being that he has the mind of a 6-year-old child, this will in turn flip Halloween Night's fear factor on Michael. Judith's diary perhaps will provide clues. Ooh, a diary? Ooh, fascinating. Opening it all up. I'm open to it. Kind of a cool idea, Wayne. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Russell Drinkard sends in $5. Says, maybe the whole town was going through a mass hysteria kind of thing because look at how Tommy Doyle was going around talking to everyone. Well, yeah, but that makes sense. that makes sense because there's a direct correlation between his experience 40 years ago. He just came from the bar where he was drinking himself, into, maybe at least being a little bit intoxicated. It makes sense of why he would be more aggressive. It doesn't quite make sense why he was able to so quickly get everybody else so aggressive, especially doctors and nurses, professionals, who then throw safety out the window in their own hospital and start running through the hallways in no regard to anybody's safety or maybe a patient that might be in the hallway going, It just felt overdone, But I agree with what you're saying. Like, I get it. No, I get it. Alex Jones, trees and frogs, and sends in $4.99 and says, "Hey Dave, did you notice they showed small footage from Halloween 2 during the bar scene where they showed flashbacks of Annie? I thought it was strange." Yeah, they did. Now that doesn't mean that Halloween 2 is canon. Okay, it was just, I understood why they used that, but I could because fans analyze this thing to fucking death, and I totally get it, but it was just a way to show bracket, to make the correlation, because although Halloween 2 doesn't exist, I do not believe that was their way of telling you it does exist. Okay. Just like, when you see two actors together, doesn't necessarily mean that, oh my God, they're going to work together. No, it doesn't mean that. The amount of dots people connect. I think what it is that from a writing perspective, I would sit there and I'd think, okay, well, Halloween 2 doesn't exist. But when Brackett was to find out that his daughter died, right? Because, he would have eventually found that out. It may have played out in a similar fashion that what they did do in Halloween 2 did anyway. So if you noticed, all they showed was Brackett looking at Annie on a stretcher. And that's it. They didn't show Loomis. They didn't show the house. They didn't show anything else around there that is very Halloween 2. They just showed that snapshot of a moment. And, in reality, that's probably how it probably did play out, is something very similar to that, right? So that's why I think they chose that. They have this footage to show it. It's cinematic language to help complement. Well, it's not quite cinematic language, but no, it is. It is. To help sort of complement the moment with Brackett, right? It's something to complement it. It's not saying that Halloween 2 exists. It's not saying that. Because it just so happens that the only footage they have of that is from Halloween 2. So that's really what's going on there. Must Be Matt sends in $4.99, says, "I also noticed during the long shot of Halloween 18 where he's walking, you can see the doctor and nurse couple getting into their car to go to the bar." Oh, you never noticed that before? Yeah, yep. That's them. Darren Slaughtered Lamb, my man, says, "Weekend box office with Sunday estimate stands at $50.3 million. A terrific result considering a parallel streaming release. Halloween ends guaranteed." Yeah, absolutely. I think it was guaranteed anyway. I had predicted between 25 and 35 million a couple of months ago. I said on social media and on this channel, I said anything over 40 million, the studio is going to be happy with. I think it's possible to get over 40. They did. They're estimating a $50.3 million haul. I talked about that at the beginning of the show today. They absolutely are pleased with that. 100% pleased with that. And yeah, pretty cool stuff, man. The real question is, what is the drop-off going to be? Nate Bra, Twitch Clips and Let's Play sends in $2, says, "Go look. Hell no." Yeah, that was funny. That was funny. I didn't mind that line. AK Channel TV sends in $2, says, "Dave, doesn't Lori say brute force won't kill him?" Yes. Well, that's because she says that, but I think she's saying that to Hawkins, and it's being overlaid with the fact that it's paralleling the brute force they're using to beat him up in the street. It's kind of saying, hey, it's telling the audience, you can do this, but it ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? RMJ Movie Review sends in $5. Thank you, RMJ. Appreciate that very much. We scroll down here. Mark Chase sends in $1.99. Thank you, Mark. AK sends in $2. Says, "Michael used the rope from Nichols on the 78 Cop." It does. It could be perceived that way. Yeah, it could be perceived that way. It does look like he's using a rope. Maybe that is the rope he got from I took some rope, a mask, and a couple of knives. And what do you think is going on? I don't smell pot. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the rope, man. Maybe it's the rope. I don't know. Jamie Lee Claus, I thought it was Jamie Lee Curtis for a minute, sends in 10 euros. Thank you, Jamie. Says, hey, Dave, been following your channel since H18. Amazing, my man. Welcome. Says, what did you think of the song that was written for Halloween Kills by the band Ghost? It's called Hunter's Moon and it plays during the credits. I have not stayed for the credits long enough to hear that song. So I will have to go back to the credits and listen to it. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know yet. I'll have to listen to it. Thank you. Dar Fitness sends in $5 and says, was the flashback scene before Michael got to Laurie in 78 or did they rewrite it? I didn't notice bullet holes on Michael. Yeah, we've talked about that earlier. No, it is after. That is after. Some people are pointing that out, that it doesn't look like he has any bullet holes, but that's a question for Christopher Nelson. He would have been in charge of, or he would likely know that. So tune into the next thing with Two Heads with Sean and Chris and ask him that. But no, the flashback happens after he gets up and walks away. Mark Chase sends in $1.99, says, how do they explain him surviving at the end of this? Well, they're going to. Blue Root Cody sends in $4.99 and says, would you love to see Laurie visit Dr. Loomis's grave and ask him what would he do? And was Marion Chambers implying Michael killed Doc before her death? I didn't get that impression, but if I wouldn't mind seeing that, sure. If Laurie was at Dr. Loomis's grave, I think that would have been cool. I mean, I'm somebody that wanted to see Laurie at Annie, Bob, and Linda's grave in the first H18, right? So, yeah, why not? I mean, those scenes can sometimes come across as a bit campy. It's all on how it's done, because it's a moment where you're telling and not showing. But maybe we still have another movie to do it. Maybe, but I didn't get that impression from Marion Chambers. No, I didn't get that impression from Marion Chambers. Okay, have I got all the super chats? I think I've got all the super chats. Did I get them all? I believe I did. All right. How long have I been going here? I've been going. Let's take this thing to 2 hours, folks. We're going to take this thing to 2 hours. That's what we're going to do. So another 15 minutes left in the show. And if you're watching live or after the fact and you've made it this far, comment below and let me know your thoughts. Try to be mindful of spoilers. Be mindful. That's all I ask. But let me know your thoughts. How many times have you watched it? If you loved it the first time, are you liking it less? If you hated it the first time, are you liking it more? If you were the first time, are you Or if you were the first time, are you even further down into the gutter? I'd like to know. Tell me some of your favorite parts. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what you think they should do when Halloween ends. Have a conversation. Keep it civil. Keep it respectful. Okay, that's all I ask. I encourage healthy debate. I encourage healthy disagreement. But the second you start calling people names, you're gone. That's it. You're just gone. I don't have time for it. It just, come on, people. Okay, let's try to be civil here. We it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Let's keep it fun for everybody. All right, super chat from Hugo. Is it Hugo M9270? Sends in $9.99. Thank you. Says the point of Michael is that he's supposed to be human, but there's something supernatural about him. From all the abuse he got, don't you think that concept would go out the window? No, because he was stabbed in the neck with a knitting needle. He was stabbed in the abdomen with a butcher knife. He was shot 6 times off the balcony. There's people that have tried to argue to me that he is nothing but supernatural and not human at all because of that. It's important people understand that the original inception of Michael Myers, what Carpenter's always talked about being a human being but having a supernatural element, that element is undefiable. Right? I don't even know if that's a word. You must not, in order to preserve the integrity of the character and the mystery, we must never know. So all these questions, that kind of thing that you're asking me, that's the point. That's why it works. We must never know. Now, you can lean one way or another, but knowing conclusively, we must never have. We must never have conclusive information and know conclusively whether he is or he isn't. And that's why it works. That's what makes him different than Jason. That's what makes him different than Freddy. That's what makes him different than Chucky. That's what makes him different than Pinhead. That's what makes him different than Leprechaun or, whatever, Ghostface. We know those things. But the ambiguity and the mystery and the mystique that surrounds his character is there. And yes, that's the point. Well, how can he be? He's this. That's the point. It's supposed to be polar. It's supposed to make you ask those questions. Because if you're not asking those questions, then you know conclusively. You don't need to ask questions because you know. Nobody asks these questions about Freddy. Nobody asks these questions about Jason. Nobody asks these questions about Ghostface because we know. We ask these questions about Michael because that's the point. And that's why it works. And that doesn't mean that you cannot hint at certain things, that the writers can't suggest certain things, but that's the point. That's the point. So yes, if you take it literally, no man could take 6 shots. I mean, listen to Halloween 2. It's not canon, but listen to Halloween 2. You couldn't have shot him 6 times. No man could take 6 slots. He's like, this isn't a man. It's a dog. Man wouldn't do that. This isn't a man. It's like, I'm being pulled. I don't know. What is he? My brain is hurting. What is he? We don't know. And that's why it works. And that's why he must remain there. Well, that's stupid. No man takes 6 shots in the same man. David Gordon Green and Danny McBride didn't say that Michael Myers is just a human being, blood, flesh, that's it. He's just like you and me. They didn't say that. What they said was we're bringing him back to the roots and making him human, right? Which means we're bringing him back to the original intent, right? Where he's a human being. He's not Jason. He didn't drown in a lake and then suddenly come back a year later and he's like 30. Okay, there's something literally supernatural going on there. He's not a supernatural dream demon like Freddy, right? He's not an entity that can walk through walls. He's human. He's a kid. He was a kid. But there's something else. What is that? I know it might frustrate some of you. I know it might make you go, because we live in a world where we need everything. It's human nature where we need, clearly defined lines and we need to actually sort of, figure it out. What's this counting going on? Is it something that I'm saying? Is Darren counting for every time I say something? I hope it is. Is it nuance? Have I said the word nuance 218 times today? What are you counting, Darren? Let me know. I want to know. You guys got to let me in on this. I fucking love it. Maybe I'll say all the words I say and maybe I'll be able to figure it out. But that's part of it, right? That's the whole point. That's the idea. So yes, I do believe that it's very easy for David Gordon Green and Danny McBride to continue the human / supernatural element with Michael. 100%. No question. And I believe it's no question that they're going to do it. No question they're going to do it. I want to know. Holy shit, 200 and something. If that's true, that's hilarious. Let's see here. Nerd Report says, Tommy saw Danny DeVito on the TV at the bar as another person who escaped. How did they think that guy was Michael? I don't know. That's another thing right there. Where it's like, I really don't know. Okay, Darren is telling me I think I missed a super chat. Thank you, Darren. Yes, I see them here. Thank you. Thank you. I see them here right in the middle. Southpaw82 sends in $5, says, disagree with Green. Michael must be supernatural. Film was a bit clunky, but I was entertained the entire time. James is the ultimate Michael. Well, again, it's not super, it's the dichotomy, right? It's the pull. It's the contrast, right? That's what it's all about, right? So I don't think you should be one way or the other. Oh, thank you, Darren, for putting the link to my concept in the chat. Hey, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thanks, buddy. Songfan sends in $4.99, says, I seen H kills for a third time now, and I accept it for what it is, but I don't like Michael's crawl for knife, and I don't like Karen's death in slow motion. Michael crawling for the knife. Oh, yeah. I never really thought about that. I'll have to watch it again. Didn't bother me. Karen's death slow motion. Yeah, I wasn't crazy on the way they executed her death scene. I like that she died because I think, as I said, it gives weight to the emotional next chapter. But I probably would have shot it differently. Yeah, maybe less stylized, perhaps. And then Blue Root Cody sends in $1.99, says, if they called you to be a creative director, would you? Well, yeah, of course. They're not going to. I don't have enough experience in the, I mean, on the voiceover side of things, you know, I work at the top of the game, but on the filmmaking side, like I went to school. For those of you that don't know, I actually went to school for film way back in the day, way back in college. I took 2 years of film, and I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to get into that side of the entertainment industry. Well, I've spent over 20 years working in the business, in show business, in the entertainment industry, but as a voice actor. However, for those of you that work in the business, you know, and if you've spent any length of time working in the business, you know that you meet, you know, if you work in the business long enough, there's a lot of overlap and there's a lot of crossover. And I've met all different kinds of voice actors, absolutely, but directors and writers and actors and studio executives. And I've worked with all different kinds of people, met all different kinds of people. And it was just a couple of years ago when I turned 40 that I decided to start really focusing more on my filmmaking side, because I've always wanted to do that. I've just been so busy on the other side of things, right? And that's where It's Me, Billy came from. And I worked with Bruce, my best friend, of course, of nearly 30 years, who works in the film industry. He's on the filmmaking side of things. And so I'm hoping to continue that journey. And because I would love to be able to make films at that level, for sure, 100%, absolutely. And that kind of leads into something that I can't talk about yet. I can't talk about it yet. There is something that Bruce and I are working on, fingers crossed, that I can't talk about yet, but it is very exciting, to say the least. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about it soon. So, answer your question. If they called me, would I? Well, yeah, of course. You crazy? I'd be there in a heartbeat. Be like, yeah. Hello? Yes. Yes, speaking. Well, listen, Mr. Blum, I mean, if you really want, okay, I'll be right there. All right, I'm coming down. I'm in, baby. I'm in. Okay. That was funny. Thank you for the super chat. And thank you, Darren. 218. I don't see any more numbers. Darren, you got to tell me. I'm going to ask you after this stream what those numbers are. I'm totally holding you accountable, my man. Okay. I got to get off here. It's 157, an hour and 57 minutes. This takes up a lot of energy. Where are those? Okay. Ooh, did I miss that? You know what? Let me go back to the other screen because I don't want to fucking miss it. Let me go to monetization, go to super chats, go here. Okay. All right. Nerd report. I got that one. The point of Michael is supposed to be human. Yes. Most brutal kill. Thank you. You know what? I'm not going to tell you. I appreciate the super chat. You're awesome, buddy. But I'm going to save it because I'm planning on doing a video where I talk about my favorite kills in the movie. So, yeah. I'm going to save it. But I appreciate you asking. Just hold your horses. The Drunken Buddha sends in $4.49, says, I would like to see Allison become vulnerable after these events and be stalked similar to Laurie did in 78 to build up the suspense in ends. Yeah, sure. You know, I don't think she will be because, God, if her mom's gone and her dad's gone, she's gonna be a basket case. I hope we see that. Like she's just, you know, and I think that's part of the time jump is we're going to see part of the time jump is to allow these emotional beats that have been set up in kills to resonate so that maybe the character development in Ends will feel more authentic. The believability will be there because we'll be able to see there's been that time. I don't know how they're going to justify it, but I'm just saying that time gap, we'll be able to see the residual effects. Allison maybe is a basket case. Maybe she's going to be 4 years older. Maybe she's married and she's got a kid, but she's an awful wife or something. Or maybe she's a recluse like her mom or her, not her mom, her grandmother. Who knows, right? Like maybe we're definitely going to see the ramifications of everything that happened in Kills and H18. Because remember, it's one night. We're going to see that sort of, those residual effects now that there's been some time. So that actually might really help Ends big time, ironically. Jamie Lee Claus sends in 50. I'm not sure of the currency, but thank you. Do a live reaction to Hunter's Moon. The music video on YouTube has some nice Halloween-inspired shots. The movie rocked. The song rocks. I'm happy. Amazing. Well, I'm not a reviewer. I'm not a reaction guy, but I'm definitely going to check it out. I definitely will check it out, man. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. And Rad77 sends in $4.99 and says, do you think we got any more Loomis flashbacks and Halloween Ends? If so, how would you do it? Do you think we get any more Loomis? Oh, I see. No, I don't think it's necessary. I think Loomis is played out. I don't think it's necessary to flashback to anything. That doesn't mean that you may not have information from Dr. Loomis. Like maybe they discover a diary, a journal, a book, medical information, like maybe something that complements it. Like if this thing goes to court or there's like a court case or something or who knows, like I see that. But in terms of like flashing back to Loomis, because remember, the only movie that is canon is that first movie. Right? None of the other sequels. So you can't flash back to Loomis in 2 or 4 or 5 or 6. You can't do that. I know they flash back to Brackett in that one moment, but you know what I'm trying to say. So I think it's played out. It served its purpose. It's played out. Yeah, no, I don't think so. And I don't think I would do it either. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Darren says, Dave McRae, the numbers are the likes on the video. Oh, I see. I was rallying the troops to smash the like. Oh, thank you so much, Darren. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, my apologies for assuming anything else, Darren. My apologies for assuming anything else. I didn't even notice. I get so into what I'm doing as a good host should, when you got this many people and you're fucking energetic and I didn't even notice the likes. Thank you so much. Darren, you are amazing today. Throwing in links, telling people to smash the like button, right? That's what you have to do, right? Smash the like button. Is that what people say? I have never, ever asked anybody, and maybe I should start, but I've always said that in the 5 years I've been doing the show, here like this, I've never asked anybody to subscribe to my channel. I've never once asked. I probably should start because maybe I'd have a higher subscriber count. But I hear people say, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, smash that like button. I'm like, I guess what you got to say. You got to say smash. And I see it down there, 264. Darren, you are amazing. But you know that. And folks, do not forget to check out the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. I'm not just saying that. Darren, throw your link in there. Seriously, throw your link in there right now. I want to get these guys to 1,000 subs. They currently have like 740, whatever. Darren and Frank, one of my great moderators, two of my great moderators here on the channel, have a show on their channel called the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. They've just done a whole Halloween thing. They gave their thoughts on Halloween Kills. If you haven't checked it out, after I'm done here today, zip over to their channel, watch it. I'm even on a couple of their shows. I'm on their Halloween 5 show where we talk about our most favorite, or, the good and the bad of 5. It's a fucking hell of a show. You got to check that out. Head over there. I want to get these guys to 1,000. They're so close. And I want to get them there. So feel free to drop that link to the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast there as well, because they're so close and they've come such a long way. Like I think it was like a month or so ago, they were at like 200 and something. Now they're at like 700. We're like almost there. We're almost there. We can do it. It's like 1,000 subs tonight. 1,000 subs tonight. But I don't want to overdo it, though. I don't want to overdo that because then it's going to get cringy, right? It's going to get cringy. Oh, Bobby Hall goes hard into the paint here. And he's like, the opening credits went by too quickly, just like H18. Bobby, I agree. I agree with it. It's something I haven't talked about, but I agree with you. There was that sort of that too fast. I I didn't mind the opening credits though, like in terms of the style and the pumpkin on fire and shit like that. I thought it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. But I agree with you though. I want that more of that, but that's the purist talking, right? All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me here on this show. Thank you to my great moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Shore, Darren Sands, Chris Baber. You guys are amazing for handling the chat, especially when we have a high number in here. I think we peaked over 500 people in here this afternoon. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Yes, don't forget to check out the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast there. There is the link. Thank you to all the amazing super chats that came in today. You guys were very generous today. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I'm sorry I didn't get to the non-super chat questions, but when there's a lot of people and a lot of people are throwing super chats at you, of course, they naturally take priority for obvious reasons. However, I still think you guys are amazing. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on the film. And has it changed? Has it changed? These were some of my thoughts on third watch. I'm going to let it marinate for a bit now, and I'm going to just kind of, I'll come back to it a bit later and see how I feel. But yeah, folks, you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. That's going to do it for me. Have a great rest of your Sunday afternoon. And as they say in Halloween 3, happy Halloween. Oh, Go Grand Guru goes hard into the paint. And he says, Dave, you are just a hater. Just kidding. I know you were kidding. Love you, man. I hope Halloween Ends knocks it down a notch and brings back the feel of 78. Who knows, man? I don't know. And like I said, I don't hate Halloween Kills, but I'm torn. I'm torn because I'm like, oh, I'm torn. I gotta let it sit. I gotta stop, because I could go into a fourth and a fifth this afternoon, and it's just going to drive me crazy. I got to let it marinate. All right, folks, have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers.